Africans in unity is strength. Ethiopianism. It was a pivotal movement that combined religious aspirations with a burgeoning sense of African nationalism, laying the groundwork for future struggles against colonialism and the affirmation of African identity. Ethiopianism, a religious and political movement among sub-Saharan Africans during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, representing early efforts toward autonomy from colonial rule. It emerged as African Christians sought to establish independent churches free from European missionary control to affirm their cultural identity and resist racial discrimination. Ethiopianism. The movement drew inspiration from the biblical references to Ethiopia, particularly Psalm 68 verse 31. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. This verse symbolized a vision of African unity and self-governance, fostering a sense of pride and destiny amongst African communities. This is important. Ethiopianism. Edward Wilmot Blyden, born 1832, died 1912. Born in St. Thomas, a Caribbean island, his parents claimed descent from the Igbo people of present-day Nigeria. He was a Liberian, or now called Sierra Leone, educator, writer, diplomat, and politician. His literacy work and speeches include Calls of Providence of the Descendants of Africa in America, Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race, African Life and Customs, Africa for Africans, the Negro in Ancient History, Liberia, Past, Present, and Future, the Origins and Purpose of African Colonization, were amongst his many works. Ethiopianism, Edward Wilmot Blyden, is associated with Ethiopianism due to his promotion of African pride, cultural preservation, and self-determination. Ethiopianism, which viewed Ethiopia as a symbol of Africa's dignity and resilience, based on biblical references, aligned with Blyden's advocacy for Africans to develop their own institutions and celebrate their unique identity. His ideas influenced prominent Pan-African leaders like Marcus Garvey, George Padmore, Kwame Nkrumah, solidifying its place in history. This is important. Pan-Africanism, Henry Sylvester Williams. He began his career as a teacher at age 17, earning a Class 3 certification. By 1887, he's one of 3 certified teachers in San Fernando, and later taught in Cannes and San Juan until 1891. A cultured individual, he also taught singing, played the piano, and co-founded the Trinidad Elementary Teachers Union in 1890, a political movement that emphasized African self-worth and independence, often inspired by biblical references to Ethiopia. Henry Sylvester Williams' contributions are more directly associated with Pan-Africanism, focusing on uniting peoples of African descent to address global issues of colonialism and racial discrimination. This is important. Ethiopianism to Pan-Africanism. African proverb. If we stand tall, it's because we stand on the shoulders of many ancestors. This proverb teaches us the importance of studying the past to derive lessons from it for purpose of shaping our future. It reminds us that we are who we are because of those who've come before us. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Africa must unite. We have to do so that we do not again fall victims to colonialisms. As Ethiopia was one of the only African nations to successfully resist colonization, Haile Selassie provided a moral and material support to various African liberation movements. Ethiopia, under his leadership, served as a symbol of African independence and resilience. He was a prominent advocate for Pan-African ideals throughout his reign. His efforts significantly contributed to the unity and liberation of African nations. Here are some key aspects of his role in promoting Pan-Africanism. In 1963, Haile Selassie played a central role in establishing the Organization of African Unity, OAU, which aimed to promote solidarity among African states, support liberation efforts and foster economic development. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital, became the organization's headquarters. Haile Selassie became a global symbol for African pride and independence, inspiring leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere. He was also prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was born on August 17, 1887 in St. Anne's Bay, a town located on the north coast of Jamaica. Garvey founded the UNIA in 1914 in Jamaica, which became the largest global organization promoting Pan-African ideals. The UNIA aimed to unite Africans worldwide and advocated for economic independence, self-determination, and the establishment of a unified Africa. In 1919, Garvey launched the Black Star Line, a shipping company designed to facilitate trade and transportation between Africa and the African diaspora. Although the company faced financial and operational challenges, it symbolized Garvey's commitment to African economic empowerment. Garvey used biblical references to Ethiopia and Africa as a symbol of resilience and redemption for black people. His emphasis on Ethiopia resonated with Ethiopianism and reinforced the vision of a free and united Africa. Garvey organized international UNIA conventions, such as the 1920 Convention in New York, where the Declaration of the Right of Negro Peoples of the World was adopted. This document outlined the aspirations for racial equality, self-determination, and African independence. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist, Kwame Nkrumah. He was born on September 21st, 1909 in Nkufu, a small village in the western region of the Gold Coast, now modern-day Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah actively participated in Pan-African congresses, including the 5th Pan-African Congress in Manchester in 1945, which galvanized the decolonization movement. He worked closely with other Pan-African leaders such as W.E.B. Du Bois, George Padmore, and Julius Nyerere. He led Ghana, then the Gold Coast, to independence in 1957, making it the first sub-Saharan African country to achieve freedom from colonial rule. He viewed Ghana's independence as the first step toward the liberation of the entire African continent, famously declaring, "The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa." He envisioned a united Africa with a single government army and economic system, he articulated his vision in his book, Africa Must Unite, in 1963, emphasizing that African nations needed to collaborate to resist external domination and foster development. He provided materials and moral support to liberation movements across Africa, offering Ghana as a base for activists fighting against colonial and apartheid regimes. Nkrumah's writing and policies inspired other African leaders and movements across the diaspora. His efforts to promote African unity remained a cornerstone of Pan Africanist ideology. Prominent 20th century Pan Africanist Julius Nyerere. He was born on April 13, 1922, in Butima, a village located near Lake Victoria, and what was then Tanganyika, now part of modern-day Tanzania. Nyerere's philosophy of Ujamaa, familyhood, was rooted in traditional African values and emphasized collective ownership, community, and self-reliance. This philosophy aligned with Pan-African ideals of reclaiming African identity and creating systems that reflect African realities. Nyerere frequently spoke about the need for African countries to unite politically, economically, to overcome the legacy of colonialism and build a prosperous future. He supported regional integration initiatives such as the East African Community as stepping stones toward broader African unity. Under Nyerere's leadership, Tanzania invested heavily in education with the goal of building a conscious and united African citizenry. He emphasized the need for Africans to understand their shared heritage and destiny. He worked closely with other prominent African and Pan-African leaders such as Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, Leopold Senghor. He also respected the voice of wisdom and principle within the Pan-African movement. And he says, without unity, there is no future for Africa. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist, Patrice Lumumba, born on July 2nd, 1925 in Anula, a small village near Katakokombe in the Kwazai province, now Sankuru province of the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. At the All-African People's Conference in Accra, 1958, he called for a united struggle against colonial domination, echoing the Pan-African ideals of leaders like Kwame Nkrumah. Lumumba's speeches and policies highlighted his disdain for the continued influence of Western powers in Africa. He sought to reclaim Congo's resources and the governance for its people, embodying the Pan-African principle of self-reliance. He argued that African countries should work together to support liberation movements across the continent. Lumumba's leadership during Congo's fight for independence was seen as part of a broader struggle for African freedom. His iconic speech during Congo's independence ceremony, Lumumba directly challenged Belgian colonial legacy, asserting the dignity and sovereignty of the Congolese people. This bold stance resonated with Pan-African ideals of self-determination and pride in African identity. The day will come when history will speak, but it will not be the history taught in Brussels, Paris, Washington, or the United Nations. It will be the history that will be taught in the countries freed from imperialism and its puppets. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist, Winnie Mandela, born on September 26 in 1936 in Bizana, a small town in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. Winnie Mandela was a staunch opponent of apartheid, understanding it part of a broader colonial racial oppression faced by Africans across the continent. She consistently connected the liberation of South Africa to the wider African struggle for freedom and justice. She expressed solidarity with other liberation movements in Africa, such as those in Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola, and Mozambique. She believed in a unified African front against imperialism and colonial legacies. After the end of apartheid, she remained vocal about issues affecting African nations, such as poverty, inequalities, and neocolonialism, emphasizing the need for African nations to work together to address these challenges. Winnie Mandela's life and activism exemplified the principle of Pan Africanism. Her dedication to the liberation of South Africa was part of a larger commitment to the freedom and unity of African peoples, making her an enduring symbol of resistance and solidarity in the Pan-African movements. This is important. Prominent 21st century Pan-Africanists. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. In an up-and-coming episode, we will feature prominent 21st century Pan-African leaders. However, in this episode, we'll focus on Burkina Faso as an example, highlighting President Ibrahim Traore's leadership, which we believe should be emulated across the African continent. Prominent 21st century Pan-Africanist, Thomas Sankara. Born on December 21st, 1949, in Yanko, a town in Oudoulane province of what was then known as Upper Volta, now Burkina Faso. Sankara was a vocal critic of Africa's continued economic dependency on former colonial powers and Western countries. He sought to build a self-sufficient Burkina Faso, advocating for policies that reduce reliance on foreign aid and increase local production. Sankara's leadership was deeply rooted in the principles of African unity, self-reliance, and the fight against imperialism and neocolonialism. He viewed the struggle for the liberation of his own country as part of a broader struggle for the unity and empowerment of the African continent. Sankara expressed strong solidarity with liberation movements across Africa. He supported the struggle for independence against apartheid in countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe, as well as the liberation movements in Angola, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Namibia. Sankara promoted African culture and heritage, rejecting Western cultural dominance. His policies and rhetoric encouraged pride in African identity and African solutions to Africa's problems. He says, Africa's problem is a problem of unity. If we do not unite, we will remain weak. United, we'll be stronger, and we will survive. President Ibrahim Traore, the current president of Burkina Faso, was born in Borderless, which is the second largest city in Burkina Faso, on November 29, 1988. His leadership is marked by a strong emphasis on national sovereignty, independence, and rejection of Western interference, all of which aligned with Pan-African principles, and has repeatedly called for African countries to unite and take control of their own political, economic, and social destiny, free from external domination. As president, Traore has focused on enhancing Burkina Faso's sovereignty, often in opposition to foreign intervention, especially military ones. This stance echoes the Pan-African desire for African self-reliance and control over the continent's resources. Although his tenure has been marked by national concerns, Traore has shown commitment to regional African cooperation, especially when it comes to addressing security challenges in the Sahel region, where Burkina Faso is located. Traore has stated, "We must no longer allow our countries to be the playground of foreign powers. It is time for Africa to stand up and speak with one voice." The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries, promoting African unity. The primary aim of the ACUP is to promote the unity of African countries based on the belief that African nations should work together to achieve common political, social and economic goals. Political and economic integration. The ACUP advocates for the political integration of African states, similar to the African Union AU objectives of creating a single political entity. Additionally, the party supports economic integration to foster a common market, free trade and shared resources amongst African countries. Self-reliance and independence. The ACUP emphasizes self-reliance and independence for African countries, advocating for reduced dependency on foreign powers, particularly in the economic, political and security sectors. This goal includes fostering strong African institutions that can manage the continent's affairs independently. The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries. African identity and cultural renaissance. The party seeks to promote and preserve African culture, heritage and traditions. It supports the initiatives that foster a sense of pride in African identity and culture, helping to unite African peoples across national borders. Development of poverty alleviation. The ACUP aims to address economic underdevelopment and poverty across Africa. The party supports policies that focus on infrastructure development, job creation, education, healthcare and other essential sectors that drive sustainable development across the continent. Peace, security and stability. The party advocates for the promotion of peace, security and political stability within African countries and across the continent. This includes conflict resolution, peace-building efforts and collective security arrangements to prevent conflicts. The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries. Pan-African diplomacy. The ACUP encourages African countries to work together in their foreign policy to address common challenges and protect the continent's interest on the global stage. This includes strengthening relations with other regions while emphasizing African solidarity. Youth empowerment. The party aims to empower Africa's youth by providing them with opportunities in education, employment and political participation. The ACUP sees the youth as the key to achieving Africa's long-term goal of unity and prosperity. Environmental sustainability. The ACUP advocates for environmental policies that ensures sustainable use of Africa's natural resources. It supports climate change mitigation and policies that protect the environment for future generations. The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries. Contact details. Website address www.africanacup.org. Email address unity@africanacup.org. Phone number +2774 657 7264. Contact us now. It's the Motivator here. I hope you enjoyed that last video. Have you given us a thumbs up? Have you made a comment? And don't forget to subscribe. Oh, yes. I'm live. And good morning to you all. This is the motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. And that's what you have to believe. I hope you enjoyed that intro video. It was intended to set the scene for today's podcast. It will truly be an inspirational experience. I hope you're feeling well. Be ready, 'cause we're going to heal you from the inside. We're going to uplift you. We're going to make you feel all right. Yes, it's the motivator. Oh my gosh, I tell you, I feel so good. I feel so good. I really feel good. I think you would all agree with me that my last podcast was truly inspirational. And I know you would all agree with me that as you reflect upon my last podcast, in which I had the opportunity, and it doesn't happen very often, to speak to those who are truly sincere. Yes, I said it. It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen often. Yeah. They were truly young and they're dynamic young men. Yeah. They demonstrated, or let me emphasize, they demonstrated that we have a very clear consciousness what it is to build community, to prepare the young for leadership, to prepare them for their future career, their future jobs, to prepare them to be good husbands, good wives, to prepare them to be upstanding young men and young women. I hope you would agree with me that those young men that we saw last podcast were an example of the average male in our community. Not exceptions. They're the average males in our community. And those young males who believe in despair, who believe that they have to compete amongst their own brothers, yeah, and elders in some cases, yeah, and engage in the most heinous acts against members of their own wider families. It is up to us, all of us within the community, to engage such young men, yeah, so that they no longer fall into despair. We need to give them hope and opportunities. Yeah. We need to give them hope and opportunities. I'm going to say it again. We need to give them hope and opportunities so that despair doesn't affect their behavior. I am somewhat distressed that here in London, I hear and heard of a number of young men engaged in heinous acts. It is a collective failure while this continues. I want to applaud the Redeemed Church. I want to applaud the Dream Church. I want to applaud all those of the faith communities who are engaging young people and providing a shield around them so that they can flourish, become good, upstanding young men and young women. I want to applaud you. Okay, they were an example of our last podcast of what we are engaged and why. Those who engage in those heinous acts are but a sliver, a extreme minority. Yes, they have wider community impact, but they represent a small minority. The overwhelming majority of our young are good, upstanding young men and young women. I applaud my guest of my last podcast. I applaud them. And well done. I need to go visit them. I need to help them to continue to grow. We collectively need to ensure that such activities flourish in our neighborhoods. And together we will make the difference. I know you agree. I know you agree. I know you agree. Well said, well said, well said, well said. Now, we're transmitted live, of course, via YouTube and indeed Facebook. Okay. I welcome your messages throughout this podcast. Not a problem. Not a problem. They're respectful, of course. Yeah. But more importantly, what I want you to do is to make that definite decision to support our young. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that all of our sons and daughters, yeah, our nieces and nephews, our grandchildren are all flourishing. It's our collective responsibility. And those in our mature age group who would lead the young into despair, into criminality, yeah, and into prison, I'm assuring you that collectively your behavior will be identified, and I'm confident the wider community will make sure that your activities are not allowed to flourish. I'm assuring you that will happen. Okay. All the indications are, all the indications are, all the indications are that we are concerned adults, that even one child shall enter into despair. We are all concerned adults. Praise be, praise be, praise be. Well, I see at least one of my guests is very keen. That guest is at least 20 minutes too early. So I'm going to say publicly, my guests are operating to true African time, but it's a little early. But if 20 minutes we're just right, I need to do there are a few other announcements I want to make before I bring you into my green room. So be aware, my king, be aware. What I want to do now is to move into a few other subjects I want to tackle. And many of you be aware that I've expressed concern about a number of broader social issues to which we all should be concerned. An issue of real concern to me is our general health. Yes, I've said it, our health. Why is our health important? Because it's all very well, living. But if you're living unhealthily, and you're teaching your families, particularly your children, to live unhealthily, your life is weighed down. Mhm. So we need to be conscious of our health. So I always take a few minutes in each of my podcasts just for you to consider your health. Now, this time I'll typically go into a video, but this time I'm just going to talk to you only for a few minutes to consider your health. So don't turn away. Don't shut down at this point. And if you have a condition which is causing you distress, please just listen to what I've got to say. Let's listen to what I've got to say. It is noted that amongst particularly African communities, if you like, black communities worldwide, yeah, but certainly here in Britain, Europe, the Caribbean, and the Americas, okay, there is a concern about general health. Here in Britain, we are overrepresented when you look at our numbers of those with diabetes and high blood pressure or hypertension, as some refer to it. Okay. We are overrepresented. We're overrepresented when you consider those with high cholesterol levels in your blood, and particularly obesity or fatness. We are overrepresented. And in respect to fatness or obesity, our women are particularly affected by that condition. Can you imagine here in Britain, up to 30 to 40% of women of African heritage have been found to possess fatness or obesity, and the ongoing impact that has on their lives? That is profound, absolutely profound. And we need to think carefully, therefore, about the impact of obesity on our general health and well-being. So I urge you to think about what you do to maintain a good, healthy weight. And the last aspect of the health messages I want to communicate with you is, of course, exercise. Are you engaged in regular exercise? I wish to encourage you to engage in regular exercise. Yeah. It may only be a few minutes each day, but regular exercise is a must. I say again, regular exercise is a must. Get in the habit of regular exercise. And together, our collective efforts will change the world. But you have to make the conscious decision that you want to remain healthy. So I wish to encourage you to think about what you're eating. I want you to think about how much you drink. I want you to think about how much exercise you take on each day. It is a vital part of who you are as a human being. You don't necessarily have to be a person of African heritage, I might add. Yeah, we're just human beings. So I urge you to think about your general health and well-being. And the last aspect on this quick health alert question is, of course, taking care of your mental and indeed your spiritual health. If in doubt as regards your mental health, I urge you to seek out professional advice. I urge you to do so. If you're unsure, speak to whoever you're most close to. I trust such a person will enable you to obtain the professional support that you deserve. So I urge you to seek out that professional health. And as regards your spiritual health, as human beings, we are truly spiritual people. Most certainly, people of African heritage, most certainly are spiritual people. I urge you to take care of your spiritual health. It's an integral part of who you are as human beings. I urge you to do so. There you are. Those are my initial health messages to you. To be conscious of your health and to take deliberate action to protect your health. There are no financial gain for me on this one. I'll put my hands up. There are no financial gain for me on this one. What I've been exposed to, and I'm sure you've been exposed to, you've observed people around you, those who are close to you and those you encounter, or you can tell, you can see are weighed down by illnesses that potentially are avoidable. And for that reason, we need to be conscious of our both physical, mental, and spiritual health. I urge you to care about yourself, your family, and the wider human family. I rest. Okay. I hope those messages see you well. And I hope you receive those messages in the sincerity and honesty I seek to communicate to you. That taking care of your health is as much as taking care of your loved one and expressing appreciation for those people you most respect. Praise be. Long may you continue to take care of yourselves. Okay. I know it's an unusual podcast to have a podcaster as an integral part of their podcast to include a few minutes to discuss. So just mention we must take care of our health, but I've seen far too many people die long before their term. And I see far too many people weighed down by illnesses that are avoidable. We can and we should take action, personal action, to protect ourselves from such maladies. There you go. There you go. There you go. Hope that's well. Hope that's well. Secondly, as we now move into the preparation for my guest. Okay. And my guest, of course, will look very closely at the African Continental Unity Party, Pan Africanist Party. Okay. Intending to bring alive the ambitions of contemporary and indeed past advocates for African unity. Africa is a large, complex continent, one with many ethnicities. We are but one race. I want to say it again. We are but one race. We are the human race. But we are made up of many ethnicities. In other words, when you stick to a particular location, region, if you like, you develop your own customs and traditions, but you remain one race. Why is it true? One race, one species? Because wherever a human being is across the globe, we can we can intermix and we can have children together. We are but one human species, if you like, one race. Although the concept of race was created by a gentleman in Europe or Eurasia, if you like, was designed to create a notion that some ethnicities were more or indeed superior to others. A totally false notion. There is no scientific basis for that assertion. Let's be clear about that. And if I'm wrong, I invite you to go into the comment section and place your evidence to suggest that that statement is incorrect. There is no scientific basis for the concept of race. Okay? I use it interchangeably with species because that is still in common parlance, but there is no scientific basis for it. Okay? We are but one human family, a single species. But we have many ethnicities because we live on a planet and people live in different parts of the world. And they develop their own cuisine, their own tradition, their own custom, even come up with their own philosophical and religious basis in which to operate their lives. But we are but one human species. Let's be clear. This is the Motivate Show. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. And we de-brainwash the people. Oh yeah, let's be clear about that. Let's be absolutely clear. Also now I want to mention another issue close to my heart, and I wanted us to really focus on this, okay? That is, of course, you recall only a few podcasts ago that we had here on the Motivator Show, an inspired African man, yeah, the paramount leader of the Herero people of Namibia. Okay, and it is clear that that podcast had impact. It definitely had impact, and I'm grateful to you, the listeners. Okay, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Yeah, leave a comment. Don't leave without either giving us an affirmation, a thumbs up like that. Okay, there you are, or at the very least, leaving a comment before you leave. Okay, pressing the like button if you like. Okay, what is clear in interacting with it is that the campaign in Namibia to ensure that the Herero people receive appropriate restitution, reparations for the German people near genocide, indeed, genocide of the Herero people, of which more than 80% of their populations were massacred by German colonialists. It was the first genocide of the 20th century in 1905, before the Germans did the same to the Jews in Germany. Powerful. I paused there. I want that to sink in. Why is it you know very well about the Jewish genocide in Germany, but not of the Herero genocide in Africa, committed by the same people, the Germans? Admittedly, these were Germans influenced by a concept known as Nazism. Yeah? Again, this idea of race, and there's a hierarchy of race amongst a single family, a single species. There is no scientific basis for this concept. It is a false notion. And it is created by those who do not have the human race, our species' interest at heart, and would reduce us to a single ethnicity. and thereby significantly harming our genetic pool, which is the very basis upon which we've been able to survive as a species, and thereby putting our entire species at risk. It's a childish, foolish notion, and we should dismiss it. And we as a species must grow up and recall that we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. There's a Ubuntu saying, which I'm not going to quote now, but during the interview, which should happen next 10 minutes or so, I will quote the Ubuntu sayings on what this means. Okay, my guest is still arriving. They're all arriving way ahead of time, but I'm so pleased with them. I'm proud of them, I tell you. This is true African time. True African time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring my guest in early. Come on, yes. There's many announcements. I'm going to bring him in. As he's arrived now, I'm going to bring him in now. Why not? Why not? Others will joining, I'm sure. But why not? Bring him in. Bring him in. There we go. Let's bring him in. There we go. Let's see if we can bring in my guest. I don't see any reason why not. It's a little early, but you know what? This is African time. Please, those people from Switzerland, we respect your clock making and genius. We respect that. But truly, African time is the most precise time, if I may say so. I'm sure the Swiss will say something else later on. I'm going to bring in my guest. Why not? Because this is going to be an important Pan Africanist, truly inspirational experience. Here we go. Let's bring my guest in. So I can bring him in correctly. Here we go. Oh, it has worked. Oh,
Ah,
slightly off center. You are slightly off center, my
ouais, ouais,
guest.
je les vois, je les vois. Ouais, certainement,
You,
certainement.
you, you are now live, my guest. Okay, he doesn't realize. Okay, he's on the phone. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put him back in my. I'm going to bring him into my thing. There we go. I was going to bring him in, but okay, he wasn't quite ready for us. Okay, never mind. I'm going to take him off. I'll take him off as he's talking. Don't you worry. It was a little early, but don't worry. He'll come back here. Don't you worry. Don't worry. Okay. In that case, I will make a few additional announcements. I want to just do this. Some of you will recall that, if I can bring it in, there we go. I'll bring it up on him. Perfect. Some of you will recall that I had a remarkable human being here in my studio. She is indeed an elected councillor here in London. She's a woman from Kenya, okay, a woman by FGM, female genital mutilation or cut. Why do I bring this particular subject up now? I bring it up now because some of you be aware, I'm also an elected official. I've encountered too many women who are FGM survivors. And I'm mad. I'm angry. Yes, yeah, I'm going to tell you, I'm angry. I am angry. I'm angry. I'm angry because those women's lives have been blighted as a result of mutilation to their genital parts. I feel their pain. Yes, so I'm angry. I want you to know that I'm angry. The Mayor of Southwark, Councillor Naima Ali, is a remarkable, compassionate, highly intelligent, devoted human being. Okay? And for her to have to suffer that indignity every day, yes, I'm mad for her and all the other women that I know very well who've also been cut in this manner and their genital part disfigured. And what it resulted in is that they could not give birth naturally. They had to have cesarean, they had to be cut across their abdomen to have babies. Can you imagine the indignity knowing that your own people did this to you? There are far too many countries which have outlawed FGM, but they are aware the practice still continues. I say to those traditional leaders who suggest that for a woman's private part to be mutilated this way is a form of purity. I say to you, stop telling that lie. Stop telling that lie. Stop teaching that lie to our youngsters. Yes, I'm angry. I'm angry. And those of you who wish to join with this remarkable human being to campaign against women being mutilated in this way, female genital mutilation or cut, I wish to encourage you to join her. Reach out to her. Reach out to her. Reach out to her. Why would you do this to such a wonderful human being? There she is, Councillor Naima Ali. She's currently the Mayor of Southwark. She is the founder of Unshackled Duma. Okay? We wish to reach out to her and be a part of that campaign. Okay? Whether we be a woman or a man, but particularly men. I wish the men to come forward. Reach out to her via the email address, which is unshackledduma, followed by digit 2 at gmail.com. So Unshackled Duma is a Southwark-based, in other words, London-based organisation that empowers women and girls, particularly of Black, Asian and other minority groups and Muslim communities. The organisation focuses on promoting self-empowerment, autonomy and advocacy, with a strong emphasis on combating female genital mutilation, FGM. It raises the awareness about FGM harmful effects, supports survivors, and works toward eradicating the practice. I commend Councillor Naima Ali, the Mayor of Southwark, to you. Reach out to her. Email address unshackledduma, followed by digit 2 at gmail.com. And I'll spell it for those who are listening to this via your phone. It's unshackledduma, U-N-S for sugar, H-A-C-K-L-E-D UMAR2 at gmail.com. Okay, watch the recording. I said it quite quickly, but I urge you to reach out and give support. We must save our girls, women, and girls. We must save them from this very harmful practice. The psychological impact is profound. Far too many women are suffering right now, at this very moment, with the psychological impact of FGM. And we men should lead the charge for its eradication. We men should lead the charge for its eradication. We men need to do so. Yes, I'm angry that so many wonderful people I encounter, wonderful women, intelligent, sensitive women, are suffering as we speak as a result of FGM. And if this podcast saved this one girl from a lifetime of suffering, then it's been worthwhile. It has been worthwhile. Praise be, praise Jah, Rastafari. Oh yes, bless Ashun. Oh yeah. All righty, thank you. I needed to say that, but it was important observation. And I'll mention this particular subject to members of the ACUP, the African Continental Unity Party. I'm going to start to bring them into my studio. If my guests can now start to log in now, I think we're almost ready for you. We're almost ready for you. I suppose I should, just before I go into that, I think I just want to if I can bring this one up. It does work. Yeah, there you go. I want to give praise and respect, of course. You remember to a previous guest on the Motivator Show, Emily Mendy, the founder and CEO of Busy Bodies. Busy Bodies is set up to support young people's awareness of STEAM subject, which means science, technology, engineering, art, and maths. These are critical subjects that are the foundation of the 21st, most certainly the 22nd century, maybe beyond. It is critical that parents and guardians ensure that your children see these subjects as central to their education. The humanities are most certainly important, don't misunderstand, okay? But they must ensure that these subjects in science, technology, engineering, art, and maths are critical to their future prospect and economic viability. I urge you to reach out to busybodies, particularly if you're here in London. If you're overseas, I'm sure she'll talk to you anyway. The email address for Emily Mendes and Busybodies, it's info@busybodies.co.uk, and I'll spell it for you. It's info, at busybodies, BIZZIEBODIES.co.uk. And if you're in the UK, it's 07445 237 296. If you're overseas, of course, you take off the first zero, it's +44. Well done, Emily, and keep up the good works. You have our 100% support. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Again, important announcement. Important announcement. My podcasts are designed to enliven you. Yeah. And if you've got information similar, please share with the motivator. If you go to our YouTube channel, I wish you to communicate with us via our YouTube channel. You see our contact details are there. Please don't hesitate to contact us. We're always interested to hear your ideas for future podcasts and indeed activities in your neighborhood, in your locations. Okay, all righty. Let's get this interview underway, and Amma and others, please join us. We're going to get this interview underway. Hopefully, King Kamala is now ready for us. Hope you're not on the phone. I'm going to bring you in now. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's bring him in. Let's see if he's ready for us. I believe
Hold
he's
out
now ready for
of
us.
the
I believe
nearer we
he's
approach,
ready for us.
like unto our Creator.
Ah, can you hear us? Can you hear
The
us?
Yes,
whole
I can
world
hear
is
you. How are you doing, sir?
Excellent, excellent. Now you're speaking to us slightly off center for something. Oh, there you are. That's better. You're looking. Oh, your camera's somewhere else. There you go. You need to keep looking at your
Oh, yeah,
camera.
yeah. So my
There you
camera is right here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm
yes,
gonna
there you
do
go.
it this way.
Perfect.
Should
Yeah,
I zoom it out?
that's no. That's perfect. Where you want? No, leave it like that. That's perfect. That's okay.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
that's okay. Yeah,
Okay, good.
because you fully. And we're just waiting for your other guest. Do you know if she's arriving right now? I believe should be imminent arrival. Imminent arrival, I would
Yes.
imagine.
Let me just try to contact her.
Okay. Now, whilst he's doing that, let me just continue. So, of course, we've had the ACUP here
Uh-huh.
only a month or so on the Motivator show, and
Mm-hmm.
we had the opportunity to look very carefully at their mission statement as quoted on their website, and we were able to go
Mm-hmm.
through in detail what it meant, what those words mean both from those who are here and indeed how it might be interpreted by an international audience. Okay. Bearing in mind that Africa is one of the most complex, okay, and ethnically rich
Mm-hmm.
and culturally rich continents in the world, okay, and therefore we have a
Mm-hmm.
wide range of both political, social, and religious viewpoints. And of course, if Pan African thoughts are to thrive and survive in Africa, okay, the inclusive narrative, which is an integral part of the African Continental Unity Party, needs to become fully embedded amongst all the ethnicities, all the peoples, all the communities, all the tribal groups across the continent in order for that greater vision to be realized, and that's, of course, African unity. Okay? A single state in which we agree amongst ourselves a set of core values around which all the cultures and peoples of Africa will rally around. And in unity is strength. I welcome you, sir. I welcome you. Okay, okay. Yeah, you got your eyes off. You're looking at somewhere else now at the moment. Got to keep looking at your camera.
No, actually,
Yeah.
okay, this is the confusion. So I'm looking on the screen as you're speaking. So because I've got an external camera,
Okay.
but I think I just need to put it to my mind that I need to look actually at the camera instead of on the
This
screen
is
where
well.
I'm looking at you. Yeah, yeah, but I get
This
it.
is
Yes.
well. Yeah, yeah. First of all,
Yeah.
good morning to you, and I'm going to say welcome again. But there are still many of my guests who don't know who you are and the organisation you're from, and who you and what role you play in that organisation. So I'm going to invite you. to introduce yourself, to say your name, organization, and the role that you play in that organization. Go ahead.
All right, so greetings to you, King, first and foremost, and thank you for allowing us on your show. And I
Pleasure.
say greetings to all African people around the world, those on the continent, those abroad, and of course, those in the future. And as usual, we greet you with our revolutionary greetings by saying that peace and love, freedom, and decolonization. My name is Kabbalah. I'm currently speaking to you from DRC. Maybe that's might be the reason why you see my network fluctuating here and there. But normally, I'm based in South Africa. I'm a member of the African Continental Unity Party. I am an engineer by profession. I'm also a community development practitioner as well as a student from development studies background. I am, yeah, a consultant in, of course, in development studies and scientific research. So I am happy to be on this platform once again. I'm also author of 3 books so far. So actually, that's all I can say about myself, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful conversation. Peace and love.
Thank you. This will, I know, will be a very fruitful conversation. You mentioned those 3 books. I was about to ask that question as a subsidiary. It's amazing that you called. I'd like to surprise my guest with a subsidiary question. You see, but anyway, you mentioned your 3 books. Can you just give us the title of your books and their themes?
Yes, so my first book was called The Expropriation of the Mind Without Compensation. This was just after I've realized that we have a lot of problems from the outside, but we also have equally some problems from the inside related to how we think, how we process information, how we view the world, and how we view ourselves as African people. Therefore, the real work to rebuild Africa must begin firstly from within. That's the reason why I called the book Expropriation of the Mind and Without Compensation, simply because you don't have to pay anybody for you to think. Thinking is a gift. It's the ability that we wake up with in the morning every day to think. And the second book was What Time Is It? The Question to the African Millennials. It was just a book that was tackling contemporary issues that we are faced as African people, especially the millennials, and facing ourselves, or actually confronting ourselves to our responsibility in this generation in terms of what we are supposed to do. I mean, the book was actually just a response to what Franz Fanon said, that every generation must discover its responsibility and then fulfill it or betray it. So the
Yes.
third book, which is recently published, is called The Commerce of Trust. So this is actually just to speak on the aspect of trust, because that's where we are lagging as African people. We are actually struggling to build a strong institutions simply because we don't have trust within ourselves and trust between ourselves. So basically, that can be the summary of the 3 books that I've written so
Hmm.
far.
Hmm. And I've had the pleasure of reading at least 2 of them thus far, and I look forward to the third. And
Beautiful.
I've got to say that we are in total concordance. I with total like minds, and I've advocated here that reparations begins with self. Mhm. This
Beautiful.
is the first stage. You've got to liberate your own mind. You know, it is challenging,
Mhm.
very challenging. Trust me, very, very challenging. I see my other guest is now joining us. Let's see if I can bring her in now, and then we'll come back to you if I make it. If I can bring you in. Okay, I think she's going to be in. Oh, she's on her phone, but I think she's at a different angle. Your angle is wrong, I think, but let's see. Yep, that's right. Let's do that first of all. No, no, the other way around. That's it. That's it. Keep going. Keep going. That's it. Perfect. That's perfect. I'm going to bring her in now. Let me bring her in now. There we go. Ah, wonderful. Oh, oh, there. That's better.
Hi.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Can you hear us all right, first of all? Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Wonderful. Wonderful. There you are. There you are. It's good to see you again. Oh, let's get her
Yeah,
accepted. There you go.
sweet.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. Uh, I'm going to go straight into the interview with you. Oh, okay. Ah, yes, it was uncertain. I believe she's in Ghana. So Yes, I believe she's in Ghana. We may have lost her there for a moment. I believe we may have lost her. So, King, I'm going to come back to you while she is resolving that problem. Okay, let's just go right into this because this is going to be quite important. Oh, she's back. Are you back? Aha.
Yeah.
Can you hear? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You had to. That's right. Oh, we've lost her. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about it. Okay. Don't worry. We'll keep moving on. We move forward. So let's give my first question to you. And of course, this question is really focused on the ACUP, the African Continental Unity Party. Now, it's a curious party, of course, because I wonder why it exists. So I'm trying to understand, and this has been a common theme from those here in London. What is the stimulus behind the party? What event, maybe, or statement by others that was the genesis to form the African Continental Unity Party? Over to you.
No, thank you so much. So,
Yeah.
the African Continental Unity Party, it's a movement
Mm-hmm.
that has been built on the ideals that were pursued by all the revolutionaries, Pan-Africanists that we know, such as Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey,
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Sankara,
Yes.
Sheikh Anta Diop. All of them have pursued the same thing that we are doing today, and
Mm-hmm.
we are not kind of reinventing the wheel. We
Mm-hmm.
are just continuing the fight that has been started for a long time ago, which has to achieve the result that we can all call the liberation, total liberation and
Mm-hmm.
emancipation of African people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be more specific, when we look at the work of Marcus Garvey, for example, like for instance, when you try to read the literature of Marcus Garvey, such as the philosophy and opinions by Marcus Garvey, you see that the center argument or the center message of all the arguments that he made in that book has been the power. For example, when he said that the state or the race without authority and power is a race without respect, and then he goes further to say that the only justice or the only defense uh, against suffering people
Yes.
is power, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I think power has been at the center of our struggle as African people because when we look at the world today, we see that we are not suffering because of hatred. You know,
Right.
there are so many people in the world who hate Jewish people, but doesn't make Jewish people a suffering race.
Right.
Actually,
Right.
they are more powerful regardless of hatred that they receive.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not suffering because of injustice in the world,
Mm-hmm.
because injustice is just a tool that people who have the power to use it can use it for their own advantage. So
That's
the
right.
reason why we are suffering in Africa is simply because we are powerless and disorganized. We
Mm-hmm.
are powerless and disorganized. That has been the message of Marcus Garvey. The same message was relayed by Sekou Touré,
Yes.
Kwame Ture,
Yes.
m- Kwame Nkrumah, for example, when he said we must seek first the political power. So,
Yes.
the power, the topic of power has been the topic that all Pan Africanists have been actually using as a message to
Mm-hmm.
speak to their fellow Africans, to mobilize Africans, to organize Africans. They were doing all those things on one basis of creating the power for African people to do for themselves what other people have been pretending to do for us. And it is exactly what we are doing today as ACUP. Our
Yes.
aim, our vision is to rebuild Africa as a global power base. And we are
Mm-hmm.
using intentionally the term rebuilding because the Africa that we have today is and still remains a colonial project. And we
Indeed.
cannot develop or grow a project that has been a colonial project designed to be at our disadvantage. So our aim is to dismantle these colonial structures that we have in Africa, such as all these things. So Western democracy, Western thoughts, education, all these things, economic systems, then to rebuild Africa that responds to our culture, our tradition, our ways of life, and then build it as a global power base simply because We have all that it takes to make Africa a global power base. We have the resources, we have the
Yes.
manpower, we have the skills, we have
Yes.
the minds, we have everything. And most
Yes.
importantly, we have the divine next to us. And even if I go further, I see that the world, the human life, civilization started in Africa and should
Yes.
end in Africa to close the cycle. So we have all the elements pointing to us to be in a position of power. But why aren't we, in that position right now? Simply because we are disorganized, we are we don't have authority, and we are, most importantly, negligent,
Mm-hmm.
towards the world in which we are living today and the reality that are happening in the world. Therefore, ACP is here to organize ourselves politically, economically, to go beyond the borders, the frontiers of colonialism, to
Mm-hmm.
begin looking at ourselves not as a Zimbabwean, Congolese, Zambian, South Africans, because all these are the concepts that were created, fits within the colonial projects that Africa is functioning in today. And we go beyond to reconnect ourselves again to build Africa that our ancestors knew, or Africas that colonialists destroyed. And this is what ACP is doing right now. So, firstly, is mobilization and organization with the aim to achieve a Africa rebuilt as a global power base. And we're
Yes.
doing this through different phases: a political education, economic education, as well as political struggle. Because this is a very important thing. This
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to mention here.
Yes.
For a long
Yes.
time, even from the time of Marcus Garvey up to now, Pan Africanism has always been considered as an agenda of the streets. It means
Mm-hmm.
people gather on streets to talk about Pan Africanism, or at least for now, it limits itself on social media. People gather on social media to talk about Pan Africanism, but in power, in a space where decisions are made, we don't see
Yes.
Pan Africanism really there. Maybe we are
Yes.
beginning to see now with the Ibrahim Traore and other leaders,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not significant when we look at the 53 countries in Africa, 53 states or 54 states, and only seeing two or three individuals is not enough. So we need to see Pan Africanism in space where power is defined, in a space where decisions are made about how the society needs to function, who
Absolutely.
must be paid, what amount of money for what job, what needs to be
Yes.
done with the resources of the countries. I mean, this is actually the work of Pan Africanism, because we cannot just remain on social media or on streets or sometimes on protesting, burning tires. It doesn't change the situation,
Mm-hmm.
of the continent. So, what we are trying to push is to make sure that we train leaders and
Mm-hmm.
promote them into political areas, to political
Yes.
environments, by
Yes.
eventually making sure that we capture the political power and then drive the locomotive in a different directions, which will
Yes.
benefit the entire continent rather than in the current trajectory where we are heading toward destruction and of course destitution of our values, of the remnants of our values, our ideals, our cultures, African people, which is signifies a total destruction of an entire race.
I,
Thank
I,
you.
I hear you, and well said. Well said. It's uh, that's a very full response. And, I had considered a subsidiary, but your response was complete. It was complete. So I don't need to for the follow up question. So thank you. And what we all detected from you is your sincerity, your compassion, and your passion. Thank you. Thank you. Now, we have from your colleague here. I know she's in another country. You're in DRC. And now I believe you're in Ghana, Amma. Can you hear us first of all? I'm going to turn your mic back on. Okay. Can you hear us first of all? Are we
Yeah,
being
I'm in
audible?
Ghana.
Yes, Ghana. Excellent, excellent. First of all, can I just, before I begin the interview with yourself, just invite you just to give your name, the organization you represent, and the role you play in that organization. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Nanama, and I'm a member of the ACUP Ghana, and then also I'm a member of the Women because of its other place to mobilize the women, empower them, conscientize them on leadership, and then the role of a woman being part of ACUP, mobilizing, conscientizing people, and also empowering the women through leadership positions. So basically, that is my role.
That's an incredibly important role, if I may say so. Women are, what, more than half the world population. So if women are not involved in the Pan-African thought processes and implementing Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanism will not survive. It will not be
Yeah,
successful.
yeah.
So you play a critical role in the process. I want to give my sincere appreciation to you, first of all, my sincere appreciation to you. It's good speaking to you last night. As I said last night, I won't say what I say again, but I'll say it. I'm going to follow up with what you just described. Could
Okay.
second question? Could I? I'm quite familiar with Ghana. I've had reason to research the people of Ghana, the complex, rich culture in Ghana. Okay. Now, how do you persuade the traditional leaders? Let's take Ghana for example, to accept Pan African philosophy for their people. Hmm.
All right. Thank you. You know that in Africa,
Mm,
before the arrival of the Europeans,
mm,
our chiefs and kings were rulers, and they were the ones that were making decisions and then on behalf and for the people.
mm,
So to start with, we already were practicing our democracy before the European came to being, and that the influx of the European has really rendered our traditional rulers, the kings and the chiefs, powerless. So basically, what ACUP or what our organization try to do is to bring the chiefs who are the custodian of our traditions, our culture, and then also our heritage to come to being, be part of us, because you cannot start any development without the kings. Actually, it is the chief, the king, who will give you the land to stay on. So there is nothing you can do without involving them. And that is why ACUP, we try to convince them that, in fact, they are the custodians of democracy.
indeed.
They are the ones that were practicing democracy before the Europeans came to be, came
Indeed.
to
Say
Ghana
that
or
loud.
Africa.
Amma, please, you need to say that loud. 'Cause honestly, most Europeans I know believe that they were the originators of democracies. So I want you to say it again slowly, because I have quite a number of Europeans who watch my podcast, you see, and learn from us, okay? So I want you to say what you just said again very slowly so they hear every word, every syllable. Say it again about democracy.
Thank you. What I'm saying is that our chiefs and our kings were practicing democracy before the arrival of the Europeans. In
Yes.
fact, when we are saying we are talking about democracy, it was being practiced by the indigenous African people.
Yes.
When you look at our culture, our chief system, our the judiciary system,
Mm,
our executive system, policing system, you realize that everything was emanating from our way of doing things before the European came. For instance, in Ghana, when you go to the palace, the chief or the king has a suburb that he takes decision with. If they want to make any rules, any law, they discuss it in the palace. They look at the pros and cons, the
mm,
negative, the positive, how beneficial the whole thing is going to be for the people
mm,
before they will enact any rule or law. So democracy was being practiced way back before the Europeans came to Ghana. And
mm.
in fact, we can say
Ooh,
ugly as democracy is a shadow of our then democracy, our rulers, how
mm,
they were ruling the country, how they were mobilizing the people. When you look at the military system
mm,
in Ghana, we have the North. commander, the northeast commander, the north wing, the south wing commander. We have all those things in place before the Europeans came into Africa.
Indeed.
So
Yes.
it is democracy. It's something that we used to practice very well. We used to practice to rule ourselves, to govern ourselves before this European.
But Emma, if I may ask you at this point, so we accept democracy originated here in Africa, but of course, Pan-African thought processes require the local leaders, traditional leaders, to have a continent-wide consciousness of African unity. And this is, believe, the critical role of the ACUP. How successful in Ghana has the ACUP to convince the traditional leaders that a continent-wide consciousness is equally as important to having a localized consciousness of African centrality?
Yeah,
I know it's a
ACUP.
light question. It's a light question. Go on.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, very well. ACUP, as it stands now, has involved a lot of chiefs or our traditional rulers to help us to establish our system in their basis form. For instance, every community we go, our first entry is to see the king or is to see the chief in the community. Then
Yes.
we liaise with the chief. We tell them our mission, our vision, and what we want to do. So the
Mhm.
chief themselves hands over where we're going to stay, where we're going to have our offices, and then they become part of us. In fact, in mobilization of the youth and stuff. For instance, ACEP wanted to do farming in one of the communities. So we went to the community, we told the chief, we explained to him the need of ACUP, and then we told him we wanted to have a farm to engage the community, and they were glad to give us the land. In fact,
Mhm.
they virtually dashed us the land, and it was like, well, since you have come, they are happy, they are with us, and that we try to tell them how they can conscientize
Okay. Yes.
African to be one. The need for African to use his heritage, his tradition to develop the place. If you are a chief in a community, one, your main goal is to make sure that your community understand the traditions of our forebears. And
Yes.
our forebears, one of their tradition was democracy. That it comes back again. Democracy.
Mhm.
How to involve everybody in your decision making. By so doing, everybody begins to reason and to partake in whatever leadership role you want them to. So our
Mhm.
chiefs, as it stands now, ACUP is not about you having the leadership position, but you having the leadership position, and then also conscientizing the people of the need of upholding your culture and your heritage, and then also using it to develop yourself in the African way. We can't
Mhm.
continue to rely on the foreign way. We cannot continue to rely on the foreign cultures. No
Mhm.
foreign cultures rely on our traditional cultures. So why should we also rely on their culture? And that is the need for us to make sure that our chiefs um, outline our cultures for development, our cultures for unity, our
Yes.
tradition for development, our tradition, so that in the next dispensation, when we are no more, our next generation can build on the traditions that we also are setting for them.
Yes.
We can no longer develop with the map of the foreigner. No, it
No.
doesn't work like that.
No. No. Thank you. I'm going to hold you there for the moment, and thank you for that response. 'Cause you put us on the path towards African unity. If I can go to you, Kabbalah, King Kabbalah, just to touch on this subject. You're in the DRC. Okay. Again, I've had recently researched the many peoples of the DRC and the surrounding countries. Okay. It's again a large, complex cultural melting pot. Okay. I'm not sure that all the cultures collaborate at all times, mind you, but tell us, just share with us, how do you convince the traditional leaders, the local leaders, to take on a much broader, continent-wide, Pan-African thought process? How does that embed in their thinking? They're thinking very much of their immediate kingdom, their immediate localities. But Pan Africanism requires them to think about the wider Pan African concept of continental unity, which may not be familiar to them and part of their immediate tradition. How do you overcome that hurdle? Hmm.
All
Now,
right, thank you very much.
can I just direct this question initially to Kabbalah first of all? Now I'll come back to you, Amma. I just want to just get at Kabbalah, King Kabbalah. Oh, you're muted. You are muted. Hold on. You
Sorry,
are.
sorry about
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah. Now, thank you so much for the question. It's indeed a great question.
Mm,
Yes, we have to go through our leaders, traditional leaders, because of one fundamental reason, which is that these people are the custodians of our tradition,
mm,
our culture, and heritage, as the Queen has mentioned.
mm.
And the only way to make this agenda successful is if all the people or the majority of the people can embrace their culture, because the fight has to be won within the frameworks of our culture and value systems. You cannot take a people who are turned upside down, inside out, psychologically speaking, people who are physically Africans but internally Europeans, to embark them on a revolutionary agenda which is supposed to end European hegemony in Africa in order to promote the African value system if you don't educate them. And the
Yes.
best way to educate them is to link them with the traditional chiefs, the traditional, kings, so that they can be reconnected. But we don't just limit ourselves on that aspect, because we realize that it's very difficult task. Most of these leaders have been bought by the system already. They are on the paycheck from the system.
Yes.
So sometimes
Yes.
it becomes very difficult for you to convince them. You
Yes.
go to convince them, they even fight you back. So
Yes.
we
Yes.
then center also our strategies on the masses. We believe
Mm,
that Pan-Africanism at this era mustn't be an intellectualized activity. What I'm saying is that it shouldn't be a remote activity from the populace. Shouldn't be something that it looks like it's very sophisticated from the common African people. Therefore, it's intellectualized and they cannot engage in that because it deals only with the chiefs, with the kings, with the highly positioned people. We believe that
yes.
Pan Africanism must be a movement of the masses. So we approach the chiefs, but at the same time as well, we also approach the people, because that's where the real power is. The
Yes.
people, the
Yes.
majority. So
Yes.
we that's how we're trying to mitigate with to mitigate with this situation. It's not easy to convince people's mind, especially those who have grown up within being fed by a system of values which is pro-European,
Indeed.
went to European
Yes. Yes.
education, and most importantly, they're being taken care right now by capitalist institutions or by Europeans. And you may be get surprised in some of our communities. It is these chiefs, traditional chiefs, who are selling the heritage of our ancestors to these foreigners. They are the ones who uh,
Very sad. Yeah. Very sad. Yes.
collaborates with the capitalist institutions to set the land, the farms, and
Mm.
to remove the people from their heritage, from their location.
Yes.
So we are
Yes.
trying in Ghana. We've been trying very hard. We have been in touch with a lot of kings. We have paying visit to some of the kings. I don't want to mention them.
Mm.
If Queen is capable, she can mention the names. But I know that we have been involved with the kings. We want to do the same thing. We have that balance, but we just don't want to rely solely. I think that's how we are going to to manage to convince or to bring Pan-Africanism in our communities. Through the
Yes.
kings, those are those who are open to Pan-Africanism, and most importantly, through our people, the masses, through education, mobilization, bringing back the consciousness, and most importantly, organizing them for real actions that can make Pan-Africanism a real agenda, return in terms of changes that they expect in their communities and stuff like that.
Brilliantly said. And if I may return to you, Queen, it is interesting. It is an interesting point. Um, as I do my research, the power of the traditional leaders is, in many cases, paramount. Paramount. Yeah. Um, what is it? What's in it for them? What's in it for the traditional leaders? What is Pan Africanism? What's in it for the traditional leaders? What do they gain if they take on Pan Africanist viewpoints? What's in it for them? Just give us maybe one or two examples. What's in it for them? Queen, oh, can she hear us? Or maybe she can't hear us.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. The,
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think what they stand to gain in when they are able to be part of us or Pan Africanism is one, it gives them sense of realization. Why am I saying that? Every chief every chief is answered to the stool you sit on. And the stool you sit on is the spirit of the people.
yes.
So when you involve yourself in Pan-Africanism, it
Hmm.
is like you are awakening the spiritual essence of Africa. And that if a chief is part
Yes.
of this Pan-Africanism, then it
Yes.
means that you are also in for your self-fulfillment as your destiny holds you. So this is
Yes.
the first achievement or
Hmm.
gains
Hmm.
you will gain.
Yes.
Because as an African, we all know an African without a spirit is just like a rotten log.
Hmm.
So our chiefs, what they stand to gain outmost, it is the awakening of spiritism in Africa, which is the core root of development.
Yes.
Two, what they gain to achieve is unism. You know, in Africa, we have different cultures,
Hmm.
different values, and different traditions,
Hmm.
but they are all of one same cause. That is unity. So
Yes.
when you're part of Pan Africanism, you are indirectly promoting unity within the sub-region. For instance, a chief in Ghana is automatically a brother to a chief in Nigeria and Igbo land. So when you are part of the Pan Africanism, you begin to have an exchange culture and exchange tradition, and that is where we look at it, and then we begin to have reforms by the
Hmm.
chiefs. Some of the cultures that are outmoded, and it's no longer in essence in this dispensation. That is why we are able to bring together some of the cultures that were not helping the youth develop by themselves.
Hmm.
That is where the
Okay.
chiefs will
We
have to sit down and say, okay, now the reasons are no more there. Let us read it off. For instance, early child marriage, for instance, some of the practices that are obnoxious to modern day human lives. This is like when you join the Pan Africanism, that is where the chiefs will have the power, the total power of liberating themselves, their people. Because I must be honest with you, when you go to
Hmm.
some of the chiefs, they are chiefs, but they don't even know their essence of being a chief.
Whoa.
Some of them are Europeanized. They try to introduce European culture to our culture. In
Hmm.
fact, I'll say they have mulattoes, the chieftaincy,
Well,
half of European
hold
culture.
on. We don't want to say that here. We don't want to call them that here. We don't want to insult them on the air. We don't want to say that. Okay.
Sorry, okay,
These
okay,
are
okay. Let me
inclusive
retract.
narratives. Please.
Very well, I'm sorry. Like
Hmm.
we have hybrid of culture. It's like we are doing half of African, half of Europeanized. So we are not having the full content of African tradition, culture. So when they are able to join us, or when we try to conscientize on their Pan-Africanism,
Hmm.
I think they can come together, they form one umbrella where they sit together, redraw most of our traditions, our values, our culture. Look, what is it that is being practiced in Nigeria that is not good? That is
Hmm.
driving the youth away from our culture. What of Ghana? What of this? So they join, we draw similarities, we build on it, and then we have a new trend of culture, a new trend of values, which is in the African way and which can promote African development. So these are the two
Thank you.
main things that when they join and they become part of us, they will
Thank you.
benefit.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Very helpful. I know these are slightly challenging questions, but they get at the core as to why the ACUP will be successful. Understanding the challenges, particularly in relation to our traditional leaders, okay, and their role in promoting Pan Africanism and therefore wider continental African unity is a critical one. Okay, but I want to later on come on to the role of women. But before I get onto the role of women, and if I may, I'm going to go to King Kabbalah. If I may go to you now, I want to just put this question to you. You mentioned a number of personalities earlier on. You mentioned Sankara, you mentioned Marcus Garvey, you mentioned a number of names. Okay. Of those names, and I've read, as I said, two of your books so far, I haven't got through to the third one yet. Okay. Of those names, which of those personalities are particularly poignant and present, particularly for my audience, as a reference point upon which to anchor their Pan Africanist viewpoint and therefore basis to which we can grow as a wider community? Which of these personalities, just give me one. I know you may want to say more than one, but just for the purpose of conciseness here, just give us one that stands out. Go ahead. I know it's a challenge.
It's
He
yeah,
laughs.
it's a very tricky question to
Of
give
course.
you
Mm,
one single name, and the reason why it's a trick is because I look at the blueprint of African liberation as a puzzle that has
mhm,
to be made with different pieces,
mhm.
and each piece has got a different angle, and when you bring all those puzzles together, you have a full picture. May give you an example before I give you maybe a single name as you have requested. When you compare the work of, for example, Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, you
Indeed.
compare the work of Kwame Nkrumah, you compare the work of Sheikh Anta Diop. Those three works form a triangle of Pan Africanism, and each angle focus on one particular issue. For example, Marcus Garvey, we can consider him as he was fighting for economic liberation. His Pan Africanist
Absolutely.
movement was
Yes.
based mostly on the economic liberation. Then you come to Sheikh Anta Diop. You will see him as he had a focus of scientific liberation,
That's right.
and we know what Sheikh Anta Diop accomplished.
Mhm.
In Egypt, he actually destroyed the whole body of knowledge that
That's right.
was opposing,
Yes.
the African history accomplishment in the past.
That's
So
right.
we look at Sheikh Anta Diop as a scientific liberation, which is the knowledge, the development of the knowledge of Africa. And then you
Mhm,
come to Kwame Nkrumah. You see him as a
mhm,
political liberation. That's why even he
mhm,
said that seek ye first the political kingdom, and everything
mhm,
else will be given unto you. So we see all these three people
mhm,
in equal contribution, forming a
mhm,
triangle. You have economic, you have scientific, and you have a political. When you have those three things, you are on the right path toward your development as African people. So that's where it becomes tricky to say, oh, okay, this one single person is the most important. But I should say, though, all credit must be given to Marcus Garvey, because even Kwame Nkrumah acknowledged that
mhm,
among all the scholars that he had consulted, Marcus Garvey has influenced his thoughts and his vision of Pan Africanism. And the fundamental reason why Marcus Garvey deserved this credit is because he's the only one single black man in the world where there was no TikTok, Facebook,
Mhm.
internet to mobilize people, but
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
able and
Mhm.
successful to organize millions of people, right?
Right.
You know, in
UNIA.
one single exactly.
That's
So I think Marcus Garvey has been a greatest inspiration of all of us, all the greatest. Whether you talk about Kwame Ture, all have spoken about Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, all looked and got inspired by Marcus Garvey. Therefore, Marcus Garvey remains the greatest of all African people in terms of mobilization and organization for the African liberation and emancipation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And oh gosh, you're a good diplomat. There you go. There you are. Okay. But I'm going to put the same question to you, my queen. Okay, I'm going to same question to you. Okay, same
Yeah.
question. You answered as you wish, of course, but because you're both taking into account that the audience are learning from you. They will go away to
Wow.
study, they will review, and they will assimilate much of the information we have here in their own way. It'll be filtered through their own cultural and traditional filters, of course, but you're influencing them. You're influencing. So, to you, my queen, um, tell us, okay, of the personalities of the past, which has been the most impactful and has been the most potent for you, the one that the audience should focus on? Not disregarding what the king has highlighted, which is 100% correct, okay? But from your viewpoint, do you agree with him, or would you add an additional name, or not? Go ahead, over to you.
Oh, okay. I would say Mine King has done a very excellent job, and he's on the right way. He's correct on that. But I also have a different view. I believe that Kwame Nkrumah, I'm not being biased, not because I'm coming from Ghana, but for factual and then for the essence of education, I would say Kwame Nkrumah because looking at all the people my king mentioned, I can say that all can be seen in Kwame Nkrumah because when Kwame Nkrumah was opting for African unity,
Hmm.
and the unity comes with all the four legs of development, that is economic, political, religion, and then also other aspects. So Kwame Nkrumah tells us that we should be united to form a developmental tool to help our next generation. So
Yes.
when you look at Kwame Nkrumah activities, it cuts across Marcus Garvey's activities, it cuts across Patrice's activities, it cuts
Patrice.
across all of them, all the Pan Africanist people we know. So to me, any day, anytime, I'll go for Kwame Nkrumah because he enfolded all the Pan African movement. He represents it. From my view, I think he has all enfold within him because without unity, you can't achieve political freedom.
That's right.
Without unity, you cannot achieve political, economic freedom,
Indeed.
social freedom. You cannot, and it is reflecting on our lives now. African is not united,
Hmm.
and that is why we are suffering so much.
Yes.
That is why we cannot even cross to our next neighboring country without passport.
Hmm.
Though we have the ECOWAS, we have the AU, but can I even go to Morocco as an African to do whatever I want to do, any development? And the question is no. The Moroccans don't even appreciate the fact that they are brothers. They think they are not even part of us,
Hmm.
and it's not helping the African continent.
Hmm.
Not only Morocco, even when you come to West Africa, sometimes the neighboring country closer to Ghana, if you don't even understand Francophone language, it makes it difficult. They don't even see you as part of them. They see themselves as different
Okay.
people. Even when it comes
Okay.
to Ghana,
Can I
sometimes you go to
can I
certain
just stop you there?
communities and you don't speak their
Can I
language.
just stop you there? Sorry, can I just stop you there? So your focus will be on Kwame Nkrumah as being a
Yeah,
anchor point for those who are seeking to develop a Pan-Africanist viewpoint as a
yeah,
principal reference point, as a lead
yeah,
to all the other key Pan-Africanists such
yeah,
as Marcus Garvey, Thomas Sankara,
yeah,
Patrice Lumumba,
yeah,
and others, of
yeah.
course. Okay, okay. Can I just pause? Actually, can I just ask another question? Because I just want to make sure we maintain a momentum in terms of my questions to you. Is the role of women in the Pan-Africanist movement central to its success, or are women's presence in the movement there simply to support men's leadership?
Please, can
Is
I have
this?
the question again?
Oh, I'll say it again. Yes, sorry. Now, is the role of women in the Pan-Africanist movement central to its success, or are women's presence in the movement to support men's leadership?
Okay, thank you. Hmm.
She says.
ACUP ACAP to me is for women,
Okay.
is by women, and is of women.
Mhm,
ACUP has realized something, a default in our political hemisphere.
mhm,
Women makes almost 80% of the voting practices when it comes to election. Being it rally, being it campaigning, everywhere, like majority of any political party, women play roles in it. But unfortunately, when they win power, they sideline the women when it comes to leadership role.
mhm,
And it is something that ACUP frowns upon.
mhm,
If you're a woman and you're part of ACUP, you are automatically a leader.
mhm,
You are not to come and support men. You are supporting ACUP and you are supporting yourself, and you have the right, you have the responsibility as a woman to become a leader.
mhm,
In Ghana, our vision is that although the affirmative law is asking for 30% of women in leadership position, we are also thinking of having 50 or 60% of
mhm,
women in leadership role.
mhm.
Reason being is that women are the pivotal route for development.
Yes, absolutely. Mhm,
A woman nurtures a man to grow. A woman can be without a man and be successful. A man needs a woman to be successful. Actually, a man takes advice from the mother, if the mother, the sister, if not the sister, the wife or the girlfriend.
mhm,
And therefore, women's role in decision making is very paramount. In Ghana, for instance, in our policies, there is something we call Ye Kobisa Abrewa. We are going to ask, and he doesn't know what to do. He comes he comes at a crisscross. The only option he has to go and ask the queen mother, and the decision of the queen mother or the advice of the queen mother becomes the final judgment of the chief.
mhm,
Therefore, we cannot just use women in political rallies, women in political campaigns, and when it comes to leadership in development, we sideline them. It's a no in ACUP.
okay.
It is a no.
Thank you.
ACUP
Mhm.
is empowering women to
Okay.
take position, especially young women
Yes. Okay.
who are conscious, who believes in themselves, who
Mhm,
understand the leadership role they have inward, outward, consciously to take part in political decision so
mhm.
that we can have a better generation and future.
Thank
So
you for
that
that.
is it.
That's very clear. That's very clear. And as I said earlier on, that Africa is made up of many cultures, many traditions, and of course, this is one of those traditions that will need to be fully interrogated in order for Pan-Africanist thought processes to spread throughout the continent. And whilst you are fundamentally correct in terms of the role of women being a critical component, and women are as good as leaders as men. Okay, it's how that sentiment sets with the many cultures and tradition right across a very complex continent. So it's so in developing our inclusive narrative would need to be, I suspect, less strident, a more compromise, far more compromise. But I'm going to put that same question to the king, if I may. 'Cause he's smiling. He smiled when I put that question to you. But I want to get his wider perspective on, and the same question to you. Now, I will say it again, just for additional emphasis, but it really is an important question. Because it's my experience of women is that they are a great boost to any political party. So my question is the role of women in the Pan-Africanist movement central to its success, or are women's presence there to support the men's leadership? To you, King.
Well, no, I think the role of women is central
Mhm.
uh, to Pan Africanism success and to Pan Africanist success actually in the struggle. The
Yes.
Queen was right because I think when you even look, I think like Dr. John Henry Clark, I think I've heard him saying that in the history of Africa, every time that the leadership was in the hands of women,
Mhm.
Africa knew relatively a peaceful period. I mean, every
Yes.
time that women were in charge, Africa was at peace, was peaceful, was prosperous. And every time men seized the power, Africa was at war. So I think women have demonstrated that they are capable of leading Africa. So it's not something that we're trying to see how it will turn out. It's definitely something that we have experience for. And based on that experience of the past, I think I would say that women have a central role to play within the Pan Africanist struggle for the African liberation, same as men as well. And one of the important thing of about women in this struggle is that they are able to engage the struggle from a an emotional level, and based on that emotion, it's not easy for women to back up once they have committed to something because they engage with the emotions, so they will stick on that. They will, no matter how it looks like. We have all these example narratives when even in our families, if a mother can support a child, even if everyone go again, I mean everyone is against the child, the mother can sacrifice everything to save the child. So it's the same energy
Yes.
that women can bring into Pan-Africanism, and when they commit at that level, they don't give up, regardless of of the defeat or discouragement. Don't set back, and they just push until they are able to succeed. So I think based on this characteristic of women and on the historical narrative, I believe that women have a central role to play in the struggle for Pan Africanism. What I may slightly divert from the Queen, though, is that women can be successful without the men. I believe that we are meant to be successful each other, unless if we have a
Absolutely.
different
Yes.
definition of success, then that's something else. But we are meant to be together to succeed properly. So that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, and I like her smile. It is. This is an ongoing discussion. It's fine. It is well. It is an ongoing discussion. I'm only going to make this observation again. My research, and I will have a Queen Mother from Ghana on a future podcast. So watch this space. But I make this observation. And I've looked at, no, learned to research in order to broaden my understanding of the peoples of the world. Okay, so I look at it as a child might look at these things, if I may say so. Okay, and as I look at the different peoples of the world, what I'm and maybe the Queen might want to come back to me on this one, would I note that the only successful civilizations that have survived the test of time are being those that have been ruled by men. Okay, I'm not aware of a civilization that has survived this test of time where women have been the principal leaders. Okay, so there may be something in that. And if my observation is incorrect, I'm happy to be corrected. I've got no problem whatsoever. But all the historical evidence that I've observed suggests that in order for a civilization to stand the test of time, men need to be very much in the principal role. Absolutely, the women are critical, but it's the men that ultimately will determine if that civilization is fails or is successful. It's simply an observation. If I've got it wrong, I'm happy for those of you who disagree and you have the evidence, place that information in the comment section for this video. But that is the observation I've made, notwithstanding that we cannot build a civilization without women. Full stop. Okay, that is clear. But I'm going to move on now, and I'll leave that one in the air. Maybe it's a future, smart. It's a future podcast, but absolutely, I'm simply analysing it from the point of view that what are the elements that have created and sustained successful civilizations? Okay, and we must, and we will be a successful civilization. Marcus Garvey said that we will create a civilization that will astonish the world. Praise be, praise be. My next question for you all, and this is another tricky one, and I'm sorry, these are tricky questions, but these are fundamentally sociological questions, okay? Question of your membership. Members of the ACUP, are they mainly Muslim, Christians, or adherents of traditional belief systems? And is there any conflict being a member of the ACUP and being a Muslim, Christian, or adherent to traditional belief system? King, can I ask you to go first, and I'll go to the Queen. King Kabbalah, go ahead.
Great. So I think I will answer this question quickly by using the words of Malcolm X. A member of the ACP, when you come to the ACP, I think what you have to do on that particular moment is just to put your religion and put it in your closet and come as a person who has been subject of Western hegemony, Western imperialism, exploitation, colonialism, because all these things, they don't look at religion. You are a Christian, European Christian will come and exploit you and colonize you. You are a Muslim, I don't know, Arabic country that comes to Africa will colonize you and exploit you. So the message is simple. Please, it's okay for you to believe in your Christianity, your Islam, your your Buddha, whatever else that you can invent to believe in, that's okay. But you just have to put that in a closet. And when we come together, we come as a people that have been suffering for a long time. Suffering not because we are religious or non-religious, simply suffering because we don't have the power. And what unites us at this moment as the victims of colonialism and neocolonialism today, what unites us is the aim to build our power base that can then defend us. Because when we come with our hearts of religious of religion, we will be then, before even we connect, we'll be questioning ourselves. Okay, who is he? Is a Muslim like me? Is a Christian like me? And already that's divide us, even though we are together, for unity, but already we are divided psychologically. We are divided because I'm thinking that you are Christian, you are Muslim. No, but we have to look at ourselves as victims, of a system that we have to overthrow. And that's exactly what we are. So the members of ACUP are all African people, whether they are on the continent or whether they are in the diaspora. We don't look at the religion. We don't look at at the difference in the culture. What we are aiming at is the fact that we are all African and we are all victims of the system, and we need to unite and build our power base that can defend, protect, and make us prosperous. So that's basically what is the demography of ACP membership.
And to be clear, what you're really saying is that your religion is your religion, but the politics or Pan-Africanism respects your religion, but religion is not the guiding force behind Pan-Africanism. Is that what you're saying? Just very clear.
Yeah, so we, of course, that's exactly what I'm saying. But what we say is that don't even bring your religion, to the on the table. Keep it for yourself. That is
Okay,
your
that's
private
fine.
matter. When we come
Okay,
here, the agenda is simple: liberation
okay,
and emancipation.
I've got it. That's why I might come back to you, but let me just go back to go to the Queen now. Queen Emma, can I just ask you to respond to the same question? And now let me just repeat it so I'm not misunderstood. Are members of the ACUP mainly Muslim, Christians, or adherents of traditional African belief systems? Okay. What's your understanding in terms of membership, and is that a driving force behind the organization? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Just like King Kabila said,
Yes.
ACUP, just like King Kabbalah said, ACUP does not recognize anyone's religion. It's a universal
Okay.
group.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
irrespective of whoever you are, whether you're a Muslim, you're a Buddhist, you are welcome to the table.
Hmm.
The only thing that we are championing is Africa spiritism, and that is the only thing. We all have the vision, the goal is to aside you being a Christian, you may be a Christian, maybe a Buddhist, you may be a Muslim, a traditional religion, but if you have the edge, the love that you believe that African can be, African can be developed, or African can be in a good shape in times to come, you are welcome to ACUP, regardless of which religion you are, because we need everybody on board. That's the most important thing. We don't care about the religion you are. We don't care about whether you are, even if you are closer to Jesus, we don't even care. What we care is that we need to bring African back to glorious day. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. But I've heard, and again, my Muslim brothers and sisters, I'm happy for them to correct me. That often I hear them say that I'm a Muslim first, then I'm an African. Okay. Now, how does the ACUP cope with someone who says I'm a Muslim first and then I'm an African? How do you cope? And do you want to respond to that question? If someone says
Okay.
I'm a Christian first and then I'm an African, someone said I'm a Muslim first and then I'm an African, how does your inclusive narrative work in those instances? King, let me put that one to you. Come, it's a difficult one now. Come on now. Come on.
Yeah, so
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Do you want to respond, Queen? My Queen?
let the Queen go first.
Okay. Okay. You can respond and then I'll follow. Respond and I'll follow.
Go on, King. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, no problem. So I think that, of course, there are a lot of people who have statements like that, who make statements like that one,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
think it's a matter of lack of knowledge. And when a
Mm.
person makes that statement, for me, I think it needs a Pan-African education. Because within, I mean, one of the principles of Pan-Africanism is that we are African first before we are something else. Because being African is a type is a divine, to be more precise. Because you can be Christian today and change to become Muslim tomorrow, and change the next day to become something else. You have the power to change that condition or that belief, but you cannot change your Africanness. You are
Mm.
born African, and when you die, you remain African. So you are African first before you
Mhm.
are Christian, you are Muslim, you are. But so if somebody makes such a statement, my aim will be to maybe enlighten him to understand that being African is divine and is the first thing that comes first, before we are other things else. And if people then don't try to understand and to maybe to change their minds, then they are not Pan-Africanist and they are not fit for the
Hold on.
agenda. And
Hold on. Hold
unfortunately,
on. Okay, hold on.
Uh-huh.
Okay, as I said, we've got to maintain a inclusive narrative. Okay, where all Africans are savable. And I suppose what I'm going to cut you off at that point, but it's they're all in
Okay.
essence Pan Africanists. But
Sorry,
I
I
get it.
understand. Just one thing, sorry.
Uwe, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
If I may, all
Mhm.
African are savable, but we will have to be ready to write some of our African off for the Africa
Okay,
to be
I hear
liberated.
you. I hear you. Okay.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right. I hear you. It is nuanced. The language uses. We just got to make sure it remain inclusive. It's a challenge. Be aware. I know it's a challenge. But my queen, I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds to respond to this question because we're almost out of time. I've just been alerted. So, how would you respond to that question? How would you respond to that question?
I would say that for someone to say I'm a Muslim or a Christian first before an African, well, that is the person's view. But I believe that sometimes you don't need to convince somebody to be with you before the person will accept you. But sometimes you need to prove by you yourself to entice the person to be with you. So if you come to somebody, if you had an encounter like this, just give the person the benefit of the doubt. And then also, you, the one that is going to bring the person along. Are
Yes.
you really an African? Are you really a Pan African? What are some of the things you do to bring the person to you? But everybody has the right to belong, you understand? And you don't force someone to belong to what he doesn't want to belong. But what we are all seeking is that if you have 10% of Africans being Pan Africanists, and you have 90% of people not willing to become Pan Africanists, we, the 10%, must live to the words of Pan Africanism. Our way of life, our way of doing things, the way we approach things, our tolerance, our belief system is going to project the 10% to attract the 90% to be on board. That is what I believe in. It is
Thank you.
difficult to convince, yeah, it is difficult to convince somebody who has a stand on I am a Christian, I am a Muslim. It's difficult. I must accept it. But my way of doing things can entice, can influence the person's, oh, after all, I'm an African, no matter what I am. By how I, a Pan Africanist, how I believe or relate to them. That is what a few things I can say
Thank
about
you,
it.
thank you very much. And there you are. You're a natural politician, and that's what we need. That nuanced, inclusive narrative. You see, because I understand what they say, and what they mean by it. That they are Muslim first, or Christian first, because that's their identity. It's wrapped up in their identity. We've got to just find the appropriate thread so that identity can incorporate Pan Africanism. Okay, at the moment, the defenses are up because the forces of evil do not want Pan Africanism to take root amongst the people. Even at 10%, they do not want it, so they'll put up defenses. Okay, we've got to be prepared for the intelligent dialogue that enables someone, because rationally, the majority of Africans are indeed Pan Africanists by intuitive understanding what it is to be an African. And therefore, only through unity can your true expression be realized. But that's a concept still alien to far too many who have been colonized of the mind. But we'll get there. Don't you worry, we'll get there. I've got maybe one more question, then we're almost at the close. And this is an important one. These countries have been mentioned in dispatches. I note that Ethiopia and Burkina Faso appear to have an African government. Am I right in that observation? Am I right in that observation that Ethiopia and Burkina Faso appear to have an African government? King Kabbalah, am I right in that observation?
Um, so I can say that it is a process, or it is a development in progress. I guess it's only the end goal that can really tell us what was the aim from the beginning, because at this moment, we cannot properly make a judgment
Okay.
of what is the real intention. You must understand that Pan Africanism has been used sometimes for propaganda purposes, for
Mm.
self interest, even though Pan Africanism is supposed to be for collective interest as
Yes.
African people. But nonetheless, the leadership in Burkina Faso has demonstrated enough the willingness to divert from the neo-colonialist leadership that we have known in Africa, to embark on a
Yes.
different leadership that is not there just for propaganda, but to eventually bring the real change that we want on the continent. But for me, I
Mm.
think we whatever that is being done with lots of reservation. I think
Yes.
pan-africanism, it's an agenda that is has to be done with lots of aggressivity, not
Hmm.
really not so much reservation. So I don't see why, for example, you have a Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. They have
Hmm.
eventually decided to bring their army together. But why are they
Yes.
still using single passports? Why are they still using single national anthems? What are
Hmm.
they still using? I mean, different currencies. So I
Hmm.
think if we decide to embark into Pan-Africanism, and we have opportunity as they have it right now, because they are in the position of leadership and of decision making. So they can
Hmm.
just collapse the whole system, right?
Hmm.
Because they've been there for 3 years. I think by
Yes.
the second year, we should have seen like fundamental change in the system, whether it comes
Okay.
to economic system, military system. They can collapse the individual budgets to bring a single budget, especially when it comes to army, to defend
Hmm.
those three countries. They would have changed the entire, outlook of those three countries. But I see a lot of reservations, and sometimes people are still getting comfortable of being individual leaders, to being celebrated. The same thing that Kwame Nkrumah, warned us in 1963, 63 and 67, when he said that be careful, because if you get comfortable in leadership, it's going to be difficult for you to, to leave it, because once you get to be celebrated and to travel in private jets and all those kind of things, and suddenly you are confronted with the question of leaving all that privilege for the collective good is going to be difficult. So I think I do salute Ibrahim Traore, the leadership
Yes.
in
Yes.
Burkina Faso, and I
Yes.
encourage him to do more, because all of us as young Africans, we are looking to him. He's an inspiration
Yes.
for all of us, and we want
Absolutely.
more countries to join and to form the true United States of Africa that we want. But to put a proper judgment to what is being done, I think I have to reserve my judgment until we see the end results, or I mean a certain level of progress that can confirm that here we are on on the path toward the true Pan-Africanism or United States of Africa that we want.
Thank you very much for that answer. And I think I'm in broad agreement, but it's only 3 years, you know. Most human beings have only just learned to walk at 3 years. So, for this is a nation, and this is a revolution taking place. It's not been televised, but it is absolutely a revolution that's underway. Queen Emma, how do you respond to my question? Are these two countries examples of Pan Africanism in reality? You're muted. You are muted at the moment. If you could unmute yourself. You are still muted. No, there you are. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Thank you very much. And I think just like Woman King said, um, to me, they are doing on the path, but to some extent, um, Burkina Faso and Ethiopia. Let me use Ethiopia. Ethiopia is even the seat of Pan-Africanism. Let me put it in that way. That's where we have the AU and stuff. But
Mhm.
to some extent, I think they are not um, they are not achieving what they are supposed to achieve, not because they can't, but because of micro factors,
Mhm.
of certain factors that is hindering their success. because Dr. Kwame Nkrumah again, Ghana's independence is meaningless without African unity.
That's
Ethiopia
correct.
and Burkina
That's correct.
Faso, Pan Africanism, their practice will not, I will not say will not be.
Oh, it's unfortunate the connection is not good. I mean, Amma, your connections become faulty. In that case, what I'm going to
Europeans
do,
also behave.
okay, you must
You
forgive
know
us.
how they behave.
You must forgive us, Queen Amma, but we're losing your connection. So I'm going to put you on
Yeah,
pause.
yeah,
I'm really sorry about this. It's your connection. I'm going to pause you for the moment, but I'm almost at the end of the interview anyway. I'm just going to ask both of you very quickly, how can my audience join or at least contact the ACUP? What is the best method to do so? Who wishes to respond? King Kabbalah.
Well, I think we have a website which is www.african ACUP.org. It's is the easiest way to get in touch with us because there's a once you go on the website, you'll find the email address. If you write to us, we take no more than 24 hours to respond to the email, and we'll be happy to have your messages, your questions answered, and most importantly, your collaboration. If you have your organization, whether it's based in UK or where it's time now for us to connect. You know, it doesn't mean something really important or something meaningful if we talk about Pan-Africanism, but we are unable to connect our organizations or our institutions. So it's time that we bring our different organizations together because that's the only way we can consolidate the power, the voice, and our little efforts into a major voice, significant voice, and influential actions. I mean, whatever that we need to be listened, to be heard, and to make
Yes.
sense in whatever that we do, it's through unity of our organizations and of our institutions. So please reach out. Let's work together.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I want to thank you both for responding to my, I know, somewhat challenging questions, but they are the questions that will define the success of Pan-Africanism across the African continent. Okay, and I want to again re-emphasize that our doors here on the Motivator Show are open to you at any time. Okay, always open to you any time. Your success will be indeed my children's success. Whatever I can do to enable you to function well as an organization, the Motivator Show is 100% behind you. And there are a few thousand Africans behind the Motivator Show. Okay. And we want to make sure that you are successful. And I want to applaud you for your courage, your determination, because this is not easy. It will continue to be challenging. And as you get closer to your goal, it will become increasingly challenging. Okay. And I know even your very presence here is to be considered a privilege. So I want to honor you both by clapping you on behalf of my audience. Hear this roar. Hear the roar. Yes. 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 Africa is speaking. All Africans, global, are speaking. All Africans are speaking. They can hear you. They can hear you. We want you to be successful. Faithful. 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 Oh, I had to send you off on a high. Thank you for that. Thank you. We look forward to your presence here in the not too distant future, and we will delve further in the progression of the ACUP across the continent. Your success is our success. We wish you well. Thank you, King. Thank you, Queen. Thank you for being
Thank you so
outstanding
much.
guest today.
Thank you
Pleasure.
so much.
Thank you.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you very much.
Peace and
See you.
love. Peace and love. Wow. There you go, people. Whew, that was something else, wasn't it? Wasn't that something? Oh my dear. Oh my dear. we're getting back in maybe 2 months' time, and we continue this dialogue, with honest and open dialogue. And you can see that the challenges that before them are not insurmountable. Regardless of your religious affiliation, you can and are a Pan-Africanist. Regardless of your ethnic origins, you can and can be a Pan-Africanist. You can be rich or poor, yeah? You can be tall or short, or stout or slim. You can and are a Pan-Africanist. And together we'll transform the world. I urge you, if you're watching us via YouTube or Facebook, leave a message or give us an affirmation, whether it be a thumbs up, or if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Just so that we know that you support the messages from the Motivator Show. There you are. You see it on the screen. There you are. This interview will be re-edited, and the references quoted will be on screen. So welcome you watching the live transmission, but within the next 48 hours, a re-edited version will be published, okay? And that will be jam-packed full of information that you can use so you can uplift yourself, your family, and indeed the wider community, the wider human family. We are but one family, one species, yeah? One race, the human race. And together we will make the difference. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention. I'm now going to play the intro video, which really does put into context what we mean by Pan-Africanism, which ultimately started from Ethiopia. Watch this space. Until the next strong, I remain the motivator. Africans in unity is strength. Ethiopianism. It was a pivotal movement that combined religious aspirations with a burgeoning sense of African nationalism, laying the groundwork for future struggles against colonialism and the affirmation of African identity. Ethiopianism, a religious and political movement among sub-Saharan Africans during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, representing early efforts toward autonomy from colonial rule. It emerged as African Christians sought to establish independent churches free from European missionary control, to affirm their cultural identity and resist racial discrimination. Ethiopianism. The movement drew inspiration from the biblical references to Ethiopia, particularly Psalm 68 verse 31. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. This verse symbolized a vision of African unity and self-governance, fostering a sense of pride and destiny amongst African communities. This is important. Ethiopianism. Edward Wilmot Blyden, born 1832, died 1912. Born in St. Thomas, a Caribbean island, his parents claimed descent from the Igbo people of present-day Nigeria. He was a Liberian, or now called Sierra Leone, educator, writer, diplomat, and politician. His literacy work and speeches include Calls of Providence of the Descendants of Africa in America, Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race, African Life and Customs, Africa for Africans, the Negro in Ancient History, Liberia, Past, Present, and Future, the Origins and Purpose of African Colonization, were amongst his many works. Ethiopianism, Edward Wilmot Blyden. is associated with Ethiopianism due to his promotion of African pride, cultural preservation, and self-determination. Ethiopianism, which viewed Ethiopia as a symbol of Africa's dignity and resilience, based on biblical references, aligned with blatant advocacy for Africans to develop their own institutions and celebrate their unique identity. His ideas influenced prominent Pan-African leaders like Marcus Garvey, George Padmore, Kwame Nkrumah, solidifying its place in history. This is important. Pan Africanism Henry Sylvester Williams. He began his career as a teacher at age 17, earning a Class 3 certification. By 1887, he's one of 3 certified teachers in San Fernando, and later taught in Cannes and San Juan until 1891. A cultured individual, he also taught singing, played the piano, and co-founded the Trinidad Elementary Teachers Union in 1890. William pursued higher education in Dalhousie University in Canada, earning a degree after 8 years. He later studied law at Gray's Inn in London and became a barrister, practicing primary at the Old Bailey before being admitted to the Supreme Court of Cape Colony. Pan-Africanism, Henry Sylvester Williams. He is recognized for his pivotal role in the Pan-African movement, notably organizing the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. While Ethiopianism, a religious and political movement that emphasized African self-worth and independence, often inspired by biblical references to Ethiopia, Henry Sylvester Williams' contributions are more directly associated with Pan-Africanism, focusing on uniting peoples of African descent to address global issues of colonialism and racial discrimination. This is important. Ethiopianism to Pan-Africanism. African proverb. If we stand tall, it's because we stand on the shoulders of many ancestors. This proverb teaches us the importance of studying the past to derive lessons from it for purpose of shaping our future. It reminds us that we are who we are because of those who've come before us. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Africa must unite. We have to do so that we do not again fall victims to colonialisms. As Ethiopia was one of the only African nations to successfully resist colonization, Haile Selassie provided a moral and material support to various African liberation movements. Ethiopia, under his leadership, served as a symbol of African independence and resilience. He was a prominent advocate for Pan-African ideals throughout his reign. His efforts significantly contributed to the unity and liberation of African nations. Here are some key aspects of his role in promoting Pan-Africanism. In 1963, Haile Selassie played a central role in establishing the Organization of African Unity, OAU, which aimed to promote solidarity among African states, support liberation efforts and foster economic development. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital, became the organization's headquarters. Haile Selassie became a global symbol for African pride and independence, inspiring leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere. He was also revered by the Rastafarian movement, which viewed him as a messianic figure promoting African liberation and empowerment. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was born on August 17, 1887 in St. Anne's Bay, a town located on the north coast of Jamaica. Garvey founded the UNIA in 1914 in Jamaica, which became the largest global organization promoting Pan-African ideals. The UNIA aimed to unite Africans worldwide and advocated for economic independence, self-determination, and the establishment of a unified Africa. In 1919, Garvey launched the Black Star Line, a shipping company designed to facilitate trade and transportation between Africa and the African diaspora. Although the company faced financial and operational challenges, it symbolized Garvey's commitment to African economic empowerment. Garvey used biblical references to Ethiopia and Africa as a symbol of resilience and redemption for black people. His emphasis on Ethiopia resonated with Ethiopianism and reinforced the vision of a free and united Africa. Garvey organized international UNIA conventions, such as the 1920 convention in New York, where the Declaration of the Right of Negro Peoples of the World was adopted. This document outlined the aspirations for racial equality, self-determination, and African independence.